Welcome back, everyone. Myself being born in Warsaw, it is an extra pleasure for me to introduce to you Martin Balawajder, CFO of Polish gaming studio 11-Bit Studios. Martin, please go ahead with your presentation.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on today's conference. My name's Martin Balawajder. I'm the CFO of 11-Bit Studios, a Warsaw-based game developer, self-publisher, and third-party publisher. I've been working in the video gaming industry since 2007, and I've been associated and working for 11-Bit Studios since its foundation in December 2009. So once again, thank you everyone for your time, and we have a short presentation for you, which I can see that we have overrun slightly here on the schedule, so I'll try and go through the slides quickly, and then if we have time at the end, a short Q&A session will also follow. So if I can, without further ado, move on to the next slide, please. And the next slide. As I said, 11-Bit Studios is a Polish-based game developer of multi-platform video games. So by that I mean PC, consoles, also sort of handheld devices. We are a game developer and self-publisher, and we also have a growing and developing third-party publishing business. The company, on its foundation in December 2009, listed on the secondary market of the Warsaw Stock Exchange, the New Connect market, but we have been listed on the main market of the Warsaw Stock Exchange since December 2015. Currently, we have a market cap of approximately 250 million euro. We're a very fast-growing company, and employment currently is 180 and still expanding. We're still very much looking for people to join us in all our different game divisions and operations. Next slide, please. The company was founded by 4 individuals who have a history of being involved in the game development business since the 1990s. One of the 4 individuals left 2.5 years ago for personal reasons, but 3 of the 4 founders are still very much present in the day-to-day management of the company. They comprise our management board, and of course you can see that they still remain very active shareholders in 11-Bit Studios. And of course I'm referring to Przemysław Marszał, who is our CEO, Grzegorz Miechowski, and Michał Drozdowski. Next slide, please. This slide is always interesting for us. As you can see, the history and the dynamic development of 11-Bit Studios from its listing on the New Connect market way back in 2010. The first real milestone in revenue development for us was in 2014 when we released the title This War of Mine, which I think really puts the studio, the company on the map in terms of game dev and within the indie sector in particular. A growth in revenues from 2014 through to 2016. And then you can see the second big peak in 2018 when we released Frostpunk on PC initially. And then that has, of course, been followed up with DLCs, both free and pay for DLCs, as well as a console version of the game as well. So 2018, very much another milestone for us in our company's growth and development. We're very, very pleased with our results for 2020, which were 6% increase in revenue compared with 2018, which up till now had been our historic year of revenue performance. Next slide, please. Net profit of the company, again, the growth from 2014 through to 2016, and then once again from 2018 and 2020, which was just short of being another record year for us. So I think the takeaway from this slide and the previous slide regarding last year is very much that COVID really had no impact upon our business. The business continued to perform very well, even though we were all home officed and locked down from March of 2020. we were able to move very quickly into an efficient operating mode. And now, at the moment, you can say we're in a very hybrid structure, performance operating mode. But sorry, I seem to have just lost the lights here. I hope you can still see me. Moving on to the next slide, please. The company is very is cash generative, as you can see from this slide, with very strong growth in cash and cash equivalents. At December 2020, we exceeded 100 million Polish zloty. So you can see from the figure, almost 108 million Polish zloty. I'd like to say perhaps sort of 2 points, because historically the company has not paid a dividend. The money has been used to finance our businesses, our internal game development, and of course our third-party publishing business. And also I'd point out that the last time 11-Bit Studios raised equity capital from the stock market was way back in 2012. So with this cash generation, we've not had the need to go back to the markets to raise any fresh equity capital since 2012. The next slide, please. In terms of our vision, we see ourselves moving up towards AAA, but we see very much that we are an alternative for the mainstream players. We regard very highly our independence, because our independence means that we're able to remain autonomous. We fully control the games, the IPs that we produce, and we believe we bring very much a uniqueness to the types of products and games that we develop or publish. Next slide, please. Again, coming back to our mission statement, meaningful entertainment. If you look at the games that we have produced internally, This War of Mine, Frostpunk, as well as some of the titles that we've produced through our third-party publishing business, in particular Moonlighter or Children of Mortar, there's always a slightly different element in our games. These are not sort of typical shooter-type games, hack and slay type games. We bring in different emotions, different emotional meaning or experience for players, and that's very much the direction that we want to continue moving forward. Meaningful entertainment, games that trigger emotions, encourage discussion, and that's very much the niche, the brand, the area that we want to move forward in. Next slide, please. A little bit of history here with some of the titles that we produced in the past. The first games produced by 11-Bit Studios was the Anomaly series. We're going back here almost 10 years. Well, not almost, but we are going back 10 years. The first titles were released in 2011. Small budget, 4 million Polish zloty, generating 16 million Polish zloty over the lifetime of those products. Next slide, please. This War of Mine, which I already referred to, it was released in 2014 with an initial development budget plus marketing of slightly in excess of 2 million Polish zloty. And we're very pleased to say that over the lifetime, so what now, 6 years plus, we've been able to generate revenues in excess of 110 million Polish zloty, and to date have sold in excess of 6.5 million copies of this title. Next slide, please. Frostpunk, released in April 2018, a larger budget, this time in the region of 12 million Polish zloty, and to date that has generated 130 million in revenues with over 3 million copies sold. Next slide, please. In terms of our development studio, moving forward, next slide, please. We currently have 3 development teams, each consisting of between 60 to 70 people. This, of course, allows us to work on 3 IP titles simultaneously. We are all based in the one location here in central Warsaw. Sorry, let me just clarify one point. The midterm target is for 3 teams to each consist of 60 to 70 people. 2 of the teams that we have are currently in the size of 50 to 55, and the third team is smaller, and that consists of about 30 people but in time we plan to grow these. Moving forward, next slide. And our midterm target is the reason we have these three independent internal teams is to reach a position where we're able to publish our own IP once a year, once every 12 to 18 months. That remains our midterm target. Next slide, please. In terms of what we're currently working on, we have Project 8, which we hope to give a little bit more information about this year. I'll come to that at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. Project Dolly, more information on that will also be coming out in time. Next slide, please. And Project Eleanor. Again, more information will be announced this year. Next slide, please. 11-bit publishing. This is our third-party publishing business. Next slide, please. And we've produced a variety of titles. Beat Cop and Tower 57 from a Polish and a German developer were quite small titles. But if you look at the two titles at the bottom of the slide, Moonlighter, produced by a Spanish developer, and Children of Mortar, an Iranian team actually based in the United States. These have been much larger titles in terms of their development budget and have performed very well, and we're delighted to have been associated with those titles and still to be associated with them, of course. Next slide. We plan to increase, we have increased rather, our budget on titles that our publishing business is allowed to invest. It used to be relatively modest, between 1.5 to 2 million Polish zloty per title. That has now been increased from between 5 to 10 million zloty per title. And also the goal is very much to take on more third-party publishing projects as we move forward. Next slide, please. And the midterm target for our third-party publishing business is to have a premiere each quarter. Moving forward, next slide, please. And these are some of the titles that our third-party publishing team is currently working on. Project Vitriol, we'll be saying a little bit more about that this year. Next slide, please. Project Foxhole, we'll be talking again about that this year. I'm being very coy in what I'm allowed to say and what I can't say, but that's the nature of the business. Next title, please. And Project Botan, where again we'll be giving more information this year. Next slide, please. And Project Ava, which is also, we're currently working on that as well. Moving forward, next slide, please. That's it in terms of my presentation, but what I would also like to say at the end is that we're planning an investor conference on the 10th of June at 11 o'clock. Anybody who would like to participate in that conference online, please subscribe to our English newsletter. That's available on our investor relations page. My colleague Dariusz Wolak, who's also here on this call with me, is responsible for investor relations. So please do get in touch with Dariusz, who'll be very happy to take and answer your questions. And we look forward to seeing you online on the 10th of June at 11 o'clock. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Martin, for an interesting presentation. Great 2020 with over 22% year-on-year growth with no major releases. What is driving the continued strong performance?
We feel very much with our current catalogue that we have. We have very strong titles. We're very pleased that this War of Mine still continues to sell well, even 6 years after its premiere. And of course, Frostpunk, which and its related DLCs, it's available on console, and our third-party publishing business. These are strong titles which continue to perform well, and we continue to monetize them.
Thank you. I read somewhere that there are over 400 independent gaming development studios in Poland. Could that be true?
It's a very big number, and there seem to be more and more of them appearing every day. I've heard various stories. I wouldn't deny it. It's a big number.
I see. And I don't know if you had the chance to see the beginning of this conference or listen to the previous companies presenting in the Q&As, but there's the sub-theme today is M&A and consolidation. And clearly you have not stated any strategy like that. What are your thoughts about that?
I think we'll be saying a little bit more about that at our investor conference on the 10th of June. So once again, I'd like to repeat my invitation for people to participate in that, and if they could sign into our newsletter, and we look forward to inviting them at the conference, and perhaps we may have a little bit more to say.
That's a nice cliffhanger. And also, finally, kind of a soft question, if you will. How global or integrated is industry internationally? From a Swede's perspective, we of course know everything about the Swedish companies in this sector. They are acquiring companies abroad. They are being acquired by global giants. What's your view? What do you know? Which companies do you know in terms of gaming in Sweden?
On a personal level, then I know Paradox. I've been there, but that was a long time ago. We have colleagues from 11-bit studios who have moved and are working with Swedish game developers. So we have these personal contacts, but from a business point of view, I think we're very much focused on from our own point of view. We take a very global view because, of course, we're operating in a global market.
I see. Okay. Thank you very much, Martin, and good luck with the presentation coming up and all the businesses going forward.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your time, everybody, today.